Thank you, Bhupesh. I'll share some tips on on surgical approach to successful DAL. No financial interest to disclose. We have already understood the concept of deep anterior lamellar keratoplasty, wherein the 90% of post trauma is removed and replaced by a donor tissue. And the biggest advantage is no risk of endothelial rejection. It can be performed for a wide range of indications where the endothelium is normal. There are basic two surgical techniques. There is one where you expose the pre-Decimet's layer, either by injecting stromal injection of air, viscoelastic or fluid, or you do a manual dissection, which is near Decimet's. In the pre-op evaluation, it's important that you look at the extent of the pathology, the corneal thickness, and especially the scar, whether it's superficial or is involving the deeper areas, and also look at the limbus to look out for any evidence of limbal stem cell deficiency. Corneal thickness can be assessed using any of the tomography devices or the anterior segment OCT. The anterior segment OCT also provides you in cross-section view how deep the scar is, whether it is involving the Decimet's membrane as well. The instruments that are required. In the original big bubble technique described by Anwar, 27 or 30 gauge needle is used for air injection, and this works quite well. However, if the needle is not placed in the right position, you have an increased risk of complication. Dr. Dua described the pre-Decimet's layer. So in a type 1 bubble, the separation is between the stroma and the pre-Decimet's layer, whereas in a type 2 bubble, the separation happens between the pre-Decimet's layer and the Decimet's membrane. And you also get a mixed bubble, which is a combination of type 1 and type 2. In the surgical planning, we already mentioned the importance of regional pachymetry. This helps defining the size of the trephine and the depth of trephination. You can have these guarded depth trephines, which have preset depths, or you can use the suction trephine, where each quarter turn cuts down a depth of 60 microns. Femtosecond laser has the advantage of providing customized shape to the edges of the incision. In certain cases, we also use the diamond knife for making the original groove. I prefer to debulk the cornea, but again, it's a surgeon's preferred choice. Debulking should be avoided if the apex is very thin. Debulking allows deeper placement of the cannula and also allows faster deflation of the big bubble. That's just to show if the needle placement is superficial, you tend to have a lot of superficial emphysema, and if it goes deep, you have an increased risk of perforation. So cannula is usually preferred. Now, after you have debulked, you go to the base of your trephination and then make a small stromal track. And then you introduce your cannula, either central or paracentrally, and you inject air to create the big bubble. How do you feel you're at the right place? A man will feel a sudden ease of resistance as you advance the cannula. You can look at the reflection of the cannula against the air bubble. If you keep the pupil dilated, you can see some wrinkles close to the Decimet's membrane. If you use pachymetry, you can make an initial cut going up to 95% depth so that your cannula is already very deep. You can use intra-op OCT or a femtosecond laser to create the track prior to injection. As you inject air, you will feel an initial resistance which gives way when the bubble starts forming. And then as the bubble is expanding, you feel the resistance again because the aqueous has no place to displace. And this rise in pressure within the anterior chamber also increases the pressure within the bubble, which if you persist to try and expand the bubble can end up in a spontaneous rupture. To overcome this problem, we described a sequential air injection technique where you initiate the bubble and after which you do a paracentesis to lower the intraocular pressure. And then when you enlarge the bubble, you're able to enlarge the bubble successfully without the risk of spontaneous rupture. Big bubble should be avoided in macular dystrophy and advanced keratoconus with extreme thinning and scars which are involving the Decimet's membrane. The bubble can be identified with a small bubble test where you can place a small air bubble and which remains in the periphery, and after you deflate, the bubble comes to the center. And as you release aqueous, you will find that the peripheral cornea becomes soft, whereas the central part, which has the big bubble, remains firm. You can also identify the big bubble using the intra-op OCT. Deflation can be performed after placing cohesive viscoelastic on the surface, which retards the egress of air, thereby allows a gradual deflation. You separate the residual stroma into 4 quadrants, and then you can excise it and taking care that you don't perforate the posterior layer. A type 2 bubble ideally should not be deroofed. And in this study, they have shown that there is an increased rate of conversion to penetrating keratoplasty whenever you try to bear the Descemet's membrane in a type 2 bubble. Donor Descemet's tissue is usually the same size in ectatic disorders. In other indications, it can be 0.25 to 0.5 millimeter larger. However, if you are doing a femtosecond laser-assisted DALK, you don't need that discrepancy because the apposition is really good even with the same size graft. You can remove the Descemet's membrane if using older tissues. In younger tissues, you can even place it without removing. Suturing technique is the same as penetrating keratoplasty, just that you take slightly longer bites. And on the donor side, it's about 80% depth, and on the host side, you go 90% so that you get a good graft apposition. That's the post-operative outcome. A femtosecond laser, Rajesh has already mentioned the advantages. That's the post-operative outcome, showing you a good apposition and a great outcome. The refractive outcome is very good as long as the sutures are in place. However, post-suture removal, even the femtosecond DALK can have unpredictable astigmatism. The other option is to do a visco bubble. Instead of air, you can put in a cannula at 80 to 85% depth and then inject cohesive viscoelastic to achieve what is called as the visco bubble. In this scenario, it's always better to do a paracentesis first, release some aqueous so that there is reduced counter pressure, which makes it easier to achieve the visco bubble. If you have a failed bubble, you may have to fall back on doing a manual technique. In the manual technique, basically you are doing a deep trephination followed by a debulking, initial debulking, after which you make a peripheral pocket, and you can use a scissors to make this groove. I have designed an instrument which is called the pocket forceps, with which you can go circumferentially to create a groove which is then opened up. And the rest is something similar to Malbrand's peeling technique, where you peel off the anterior stroma. This helps you achieve a good deep plane. This can also be done in failed big bubbles. This is a case of Hydrops, where you can see the manual DALK, and you can see there's hardly any residual stroma, and measuring only about 30 microns on anterior segmentosity. Instead of using fresh donor tissue, you can even use gamma irradiated lenticules for anterior lamellar keratoplasty, which gives equally good results. Post-operatively, common complication can be a double anterior chamber if you have encountered any microperforations during the surgery. Can be managed by using a gas or air bubble. Important to prevent pupillary block, either keep the pupil dilated or do an inferior paracentesis and do a inferior peripheral aerodectomy. In decision making, yes, this flowchart is very useful. You do a clinical examination, do a tomography, anterior segment OCT. If there are no stromal scars involving the Descemet's membrane or the pre-Descemet's layer, and the apical thickness is more than 200 microns and the steep K is less than 70 diopters, you can then schedule the patient for a big bubble technique. And in that, if you achieve the type 1 big bubble, you can go ahead. But if you achieve a type 2 bubble, or if you have a microperforation, you have to want to doing a manual DALK. There also, I think if you achieve a smooth bed with a residual bed of less than 80 microns, you can have reasonably good outcomes. So in conclusion, DALK should be considered the procedure of choice for corneal diseases with healthy endothelium. Surgical techniques continue to evolve, ensuring greater success of big bubble DALK. Pre-op evaluation and surgical planning is essential to minimize complications. In future, the femtosecond laser technology and the intra-op OCT may further improve the outcomes, making it easier for surgeons to transition to performing a DALK surgery. Thank you. Thank you for your patient hearing.